All right. All right, call the meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. for the June 4th, 2025 Planning Board meeting. My name is Stephanie Slysz. I'm your chair. To my right, I have Jimmy Tarr, our alternate chair. At the far end, I have Doug Finn. And to my left, John Jeffress. Oh, and is outside noise. Do you mind shutting the door? Yeah, thank you. And then over here, we have Bella Yeager, who's our town planner. The first item on the agenda, as always, is public forum. This is an opportunity for folks that are here from the public who would like to bring something to the board's attention that are not here for something not on the agenda tonight. So this is any new business that you'd like to bring to our attention, share anything with us, an opportunity to bring something for the board. So I'd imagine everyone's here for something on the agenda. All right. With that,
I move that we close discussion on public
we don't
forum.
need
Okay.
don't need that to close public forum, but moving ahead to the first thing that we do is approve our minutes, and then we'll jump into the public hearing. So minutes from the May 7th meeting. Jimmy, because you weren't here, you weren't able to vote on these.
Right.
I reviewed them.
Yep.
And it seemed okay.
I didn't see any errors that jumped out.
I mean, they're pretty comprehensive, which is good, and also
I'd be happy to make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
yeah, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, you can't vote, Jimmy.
Oh, right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, he seconded also, so.
Oh,
let's make a-
did you make the motion to approve or did I?
You did.
I did, so
And
somebody
then
else
you
has to second.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, the May 7th,
Jimmy abstains.
yes, meeting
Sorry,
minutes
Jimmy.
passed. All right, now is the time for a public hearing. Just so folks are aware of the process for this, I read the hearing notice. Then we have opportunity for the applicant to present their plan for the parcel. And then after that, we have an opportunity to hear from proponents of the plan or opponents of the plan. You have to pick a side in order to come up and speak, just so you're all aware. And you're addressing your comments to the board, not to the applicant. And from there, we'll then close the hearing. That's the part where the public is engaged, and it's the board engaging with the applicant. So just so you're all aware of how that process goes. And then at the end of that, we can vote to approve, to continue the hearing, or vote or to make a decision. So with that, the item public hearing for a special permit application, doggy daycare, 336 West Street-Parcel ID number 206570. I'm going to read the notice of the public hearing that was posted and that abutters received. A public hearing will be held by the Hatfield Planning Board in Memorial Town Hall, 59 Main Street, Hatfield, Mass. on June 4th, 2025 at 6:01 p.m. on a special permit application filed by Tarr Gottlieb for the premises at 336 West Hatfield Street, Hatfield, Mass. Assessors map 206, lot 57, currently zoned business for the purpose of a doggy daycare in accordance with the table of use section 3, subsection 3.7 set forth by the zoning bylaws. The complete application is available to view during regular business hours at the office of the town clerk, 59 Main Street, Hatfield, Mass. All right, with that, we offer the floor. Please introduce yourselves and present. We have seen, you've submitted application materials. You've submitted these applications. You came to the last meeting. For all intents and purposes, this is the first time the public is officially hearing on the record for the public hearing about the project. So feel free to present comprehensive plan.
test it for you? No, it'll work. Okay. So hello again, board. My name is Brian Gottlieb. This is my sister, Tarr Gottlieb, her wife, Irma Lopez. I don't live in town. I live in New Jersey. I'm a writer. Tara and Irma live here. Tara, up until very recently, worked for the ALS Association. Irma is a local police officer. We're all dog owners. I have a French bulldog, unbelievably cute, the love of my life, but a huge jerk. Tara and Irma have a pit bull and a boxer, a very goofy boxer. Tara and I are certified at AIP Career College for doggy daycare ownership. Irma's in the middle of taking the course. When we decided to do this, we looked around all the area, and these guys did research by foot and found out that there were a lot of doggy daycares that had waiting lists. So we saw that the demand was there. And there's nothing really, there's no doggy daycares in the area around Hatfield where we are. So our plan is to open in September, hopefully, realistically, September, October. We're going to have half-day, full-day doggy daycare, boarding, training, and grooming. I'll walk everyone through the services so you can have a sense of what they are. In terms of the daycare, we'll have a test, of course. There's Massachusetts regulations for rabies. That's the only one that's required, but we will encourage other vaccinations, parvo, etc. We're going to have a two-part behavior test where the dog is alone with a person and then under close supervision brought in with the other dogs to see how they behave. We plan to implement a 3-strike rule whereby if a dog exhibits unacceptable behavior 3 times in 6 months, then they won't be allowed at our place. Initially, and it might change, it might not, we're not going to accept larger, stronger breeds, just so we can kind of get our footing. Rottweilers, pit bulls, possibly some herding dogs. It might change. And our daycare, as you could see in the floor plan, there'll be one main room that we're going to have a wall built to divide it in 2, one for small dogs, one for large dogs. Each section can have 10 dogs at a time, at least 1 employee per room. And along the sides, there's timeout for dogs that, get worked up, possibly get into a fight, hopefully not. And we'll also have a webcam for doggy parents to look and for all of us to look. Our proposed hours right now is Monday to Friday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., Saturday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Sunday will only be open for drop-off and pickup from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Our weekday will be divided into 2 halves. It'll be 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. and then 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. And each half day, the 2 group of dogs will have up to an hour outside. We're going to stagger it, so obviously the small dogs and large dogs are never out there at the same time. And we're going to try to set it as close to the middle of the day as possible, so to cut down on any morning or evening barking or noise or disturbance. In terms of parking, we have some spots that are already next to the structure, but it's convenient. We have a roundabout, so we're going to have people drop off their dogs, let's say on an average weekday, 7 to 8. We won't have them pull into a parking spot, bring the dog out, they'll go into the roundabout. So we can, ideally, we'd run out to the car and get the dog and bring it in, but they could stop in the roundabout and bring it in. But hopefully that will stop traffic from people, people having to go into the parking lot, park it out and all that. Hopefully it'll be a quicker process. And lastly, in terms of the daycare, I know Doug brought up waste last time. Right now, the owner, Sheena, said there's a dumpster there that they pick up regularly, and that's what we're going to take care of. I think that, she said there's a dumpster back there, but we will, we told her that if that's not sufficient, we'll get private collection. She assures us it will be, but we'll see, obviously. Okay,
For a second,
yes,
so Sheena is the owner of this
sorry,
property?
Sheena's the owner, yes.
Okay,
And Sheena, I'll get into this more, but Sheena lives on site. She lives,
okay.
her house is attached to the structure.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll get into boarding. So dogs will be alone in separate kennels. We will not have overnight workers, but as you said, Sheena she has a wall that her living room will connect with the room that the dogs will be boarded in. She said that she is open to the idea of being an employee, whereby she'd be, if there was an emergency, she could be on site. But we would have a webcam, we'd have alarms, we'd have fire alarms. It would link up to our house, well, to these guys, to their house, they're 10 minutes away, to Sheena and to local fire and police, which helps that Irma's a police officer, obviously. The room would be soundproofed. So hopefully if dogs barked at night, Sheena wouldn't want to hear it, but obviously we hope that no one else would. In terms of grooming and training, we don't have much to say yet because these are independent contractors that we would hire, but we already have a space portioned out for grooming, for a grooming station. But that's something once we're open, we're going to ease into that. I've sent you guys over our renovation plans. We're not really doing any huge structural changes. The only thing that's going to be on the outside is we want to build a white fence around the area next to Depot Street where the dogs would be out during the day. Ideally, our contractors haven't gotten back to us yet. Ideally, we'd put an awning over half of that for protection from sunlight, from rain, for snow.
Just clarity, the outdoor part for the dogs to be able, is going to be on the Depot, adjacent, Depot Road
Yes.
fence building.
Yep, exactly.
On the other, can I ask a question?
Now it's not really I just want to make sure this is
I
opportunity
don't know where it is.
to
Okay.
bring forward. I know, yeah, that doesn't seem
If
like
you're
much.
facing,
If you're facing the front of the building.
it's on the right.
Yep.
Exactly.
That's the
Yep.
Depot Road, that little strip.
Yep, exactly, yep. Yeah, and as I said, we don't want to change the place. We actually like how rustic it feels, and we're still struggling. It's very difficult for us. We're trying to come up with a name still and a logo, but we're leaning into doing something with a ranch because we want to keep the place, keep it feeling and looking the same way. So just in terms of the community, something we want to link up with local veterinarians, of course, in case there's an emergency, but hopefully, obviously, they could bring us business. Local dog trainers, dog groomers, pet stores, and hotel and bed and breakfast owners. Maybe if people want to stay there, but they have dogs, we could be referred to board them. And Tara brought up that she has years working for ALS Association, that she would love to continue to do stuff like that, like dog adoptions, dog fairs, costume competitions, stuff like that, where we could get dogs adopted or donate to the ASPCA, et cetera. But that, I feel like, is a general overview. The last thing I'll say is, and this is just a purely sentimental thing, Tara started working for the ALS Association because our dad, I guess 4 years ago now, he was diagnosed with ALS, and he was a healthy, vigorous 73-year-old guy, and 6 months later, he died. And he left us some money that we were sitting on. We didn't know what to do with it, and this is what we're doing with it. And we just know, like, it'd make him happy. He wasn't particularly a dog person like we are, but he wanted us to do something good with his legacy, so this is what we're choosing to do. So, you know, it means something to us beyond the dogs and all that. But yeah, that's our pitch.
Is there any clarifying questions? Not really getting into it really, but like any just clarifying questions that would be helpful before we open it for public comment.
I've got a couple.
Yep.
I'm looking at this plan.
Yep.
Yeah.
Me too.
The outside play area, which is on the right of this piece of paper, that's facing Depot Street
Yes.
People
or
were-
Depot Road. I'm sorry,
Mhm.
Depot Road. It's like I don't even live here. Oh my God. Sorry about that. Depot Road. And you're proposing to fence that in.
Yep.
Do you have any estimate as to how wide that area is? As I'm looking at this page, left to right, how wide would that be? Or how far would the side fence be from the side of the building?
The contractors are currently working all that out. They haven't gotten it back to us yet. Can you guys estimate from?
I don't know. As soon as the contractors do get back to us, we can let you know. I will say, though, that there's a stop sign at the end of Depot, on the corner of Depot and West.
Mhm.
And the fence will be sloped down so that the cars have no problem seeing to the right when they're at the stop sign. The fence won't be in the way.
Yeah, and it doesn't
They'll have-
extend all the way to West Street either.
Yeah.
How about when you have traffic, people dropping off?
All right.
So,
Yeah.
so that.
Well, wait, hang on.
Hold on.
Hang on.
Couple of other questions.
Specific times.
There's, on the front of the existing building, there's a porch overhang. And as I'm looking at a Google Street View to remind myself, the porch overhang is not listed on your plan. It basically goes over the front entrance, correct? Okay. I don't know the answer to this. Bella, do you know the answer to this? Setbacks for that zone? You know what lot setbacks are?
I can find out if they're extending toward the street, you're saying?
Well, they're talking about making use of an area on Depot
Yeah.
Road.
Yeah.
Section and I'm not sure how that would apply. A fence wouldn't trigger a setback limit, but
Let me check.
there's that. And you're saying that there's a residence that's attached to this building.
Yeah,
So this is using the front part of this building. And there's a residence at the back part of the building.
yep,
And the residence would remain.
yep.
And the
You're-
resident, the
Resident is the
current-
property owner.
Current resident of
Okay.
that is the property.
Okay, is that, by the way, is that person here?
No,
Okay.
Her name is Sheena Strong. She's the daughter of Rich Strong, whose business was there.
Okay. All right. I don't want to monopolize everything, but.
No.
And you're proposing no changes to the exterior of the building?
Correct.
Okay. For now, that's,
No structural changes at all. Any wall that goes up is a pony wall.
halfway.
All right, and then any other questions clarifying right now before we open it up to the public? I just, the only thing I would like to say is like, I appreciate you giving us insight into the business there. It's not really our job to judge a business plan, but the use of the property. So, and making sure that it fits within our bylaws and making sure you're following the steps of the special permit request. So, which I still have some questions on, but when we get to that part.
And I'm
get
sorry, I had one more
Yeah.
question. I apologize for that. Have you consulted with the animal control officer for Hatfield?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And yes.
Okay.
And then, is there any lighting or extra lighting expected for the property? Would be something.
So the contractors said they're going to make sure that everything is within Hatfield's regulations as far as lighting. So Sheena seems to think that the lighting outside right now is good enough, that we won't have to change any of that. If we do, it will stay within the Hatfield regulations. So like, we're not going to have a big neon
I mean,
sign.
I'm saying ideally we would have all this information ahead of having this hearing. So I'm like, you're saying the contractors would follow within our guidelines. This is the time to be presenting to us what the plan is so that we can ensure that it is within those guidelines. Similarly with the fencing and like exactly where it is from the property line. Like ideally that is stuff that should be happening at this hearing. And so part of me feels like we're not even getting a full
Look at what's happening.
look, yeah, at what the full plan. I mean, like you have the idea for the business, but again, we are looking at what's happening on the property itself. And so I don't even know. I want the opportunity for the public to weigh in, but I also want the opportunity for the public to weigh in
Weigh in what's
when
gonna
it's
be the
accurate.
plan.
Right.
on a more
Yeah,
full-fledged
So
plan.
our problem is though that we have a whole bunch of people that came for this
for
tonight.
this. So the thing is, if we, just from a little, how we have to do this, if we opened it up to the public now, we would get your feedback on this. It would then allow the applicants to incorporate that feedback, because I feel like
Right.
there's a lot of stuff, some stuff missing. The other side of doing this is not pausing and continuing the hearing and then having the feedback when there's a more robust plan. But I obviously want people, so those are the two.
Uh-huh.
There's not like two options for times for feedback from the public, is what I'm saying, unfortunately, the way the process works.
Either now or later.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I feel like the dimensional issues are going to be part of the concern. Things like lighting, things like how far the fence extends.
Lighting, screening, fencing,
Visibility. Yeah,
access onto the lot.
Right.
Access from the lot, how cars approach the lot.
Mhm.
The way I understand it. Well, is there currently access to this property from Depot?
There is.
There is. That'll be eliminated though when you build in the fenced-in area on the side.
So people would have to enter and exit from.
No.
Yeah, they can enter the backyard.
Behind the
It's not-
building or
it's
to the
not
east of the
going that-
building?
Yeah, the
It's
fence
not
doesn't go
going
that far
that far
forward.
out.
Yeah.
So right now, there's like, what are the curb cuts?
Aren't
Is
there
something
two
else we
curb
would
cuts?
probably want
Right.
to look at? Like, is there just an open curb cut throughout the whole
So right
thing?
now, there's,
These are all things that we need to see on a document, and like,
okay.
so these are kind of, so this is kind of where I'm like I don't know if everyone's following along here around with my chicken and egg situation around getting public feedback now versus having a more fleshed out, but then also acknowledging that you all came here tonight. So I think there's a question of whether thoughts and opinions should be given now or
Can we
later.
do that and continue it?
Yes, they just couldn't give
Yeah, we
more.
You can't
They
give feedback twice.
But
couldn't give feedback again at the next time.
but
at the
other
next-
people could?
No, there's not enough.
No room for second
opportunity.
feedback.
Plan review.
I will say that right now there is a gate,
They could get
like a
rid of
little,
it.
But it's a larger issue.
okay.
I feel like it makes more sense to me to get public feedback on the most complete, accurate picture.
And we're not going
Madam Chair, I defer to your wisdom in
Yeah, right,
this.
right.
That being said, I suspect that if we were to open it up for public comment, that a lot of the public comment we would hear would be directly related to some of the deficits that I think I see, or some of the deficits that have been mentioned, screening,
Right.
access onto the lot, access away from the lot. I have a very strong concern about someone walking out into late July heat and putting doggy poo into a big metal box in the parking lot. That I don't think is a solution that's going to work for me. And I would encourage the applicants to look at other options there. But overall, I mean, I like the fact that they included the interior layout. I'm more interested in the site because I think that's our position. We're not worried about the interior construction. That's more the building inspectors, methods and materials, kind of that's their purview to make sure everything is there. And it's also the purview of the ACO to make sure that the resources you need to run a kennel properly are included in your layout. That's their domain. Our domain is how the business works within the scope of the neighborhood. And I don't have enough information to make a judgment on that right now.
Mhm. Again, yes, and acknowledging that we have public here.
Got a good contingency.
Um,
Can we vote on whether we?
It's not, I mean. I mean, it's one of those things, I want to acknowledge that people that did come here tonight. And so I feel like it does make
Yeah.
sense to allow the commentary, although it has to be very explicit if there's anyone coming back to a continued hearing, which is most likely to happen, that there wouldn't be really, there wouldn't be allowed comments or questions on the updates necessarily.
So,
So-
let-
so here's
go
a
ahead,
thought.
Go ahead.
Do you think that we have all the people that are opposed to this?
Not necessarily opposed. You don't know they're
Right,
opposed.
right. I'm just saying, do you think that we have all the people that are opposed to this here?
Concerned.
No, not all, no.
Okay,
Well, and as always, with whether we
And-
voted to continue or not, like people could submit written feedback that can be included in the record, whether it's for or against.
and are there people out there also in favor of this project?
Jimmy, that's not the
I
time right now. to say
I know,
that.
I'm just
So
trying to gauge the crowd.
So I would
No,
like to.
that's not.
I would like to suggest that if we were to open it to the public,
Yeah.
that as long as the commentary consisted of, even if it's, I'm going to make something up. I'm in a butter. I don't like dogs, and I don't want dogs next to me because they bark all the time. That gives a piece of information to the proponents. Okay, how can we best manage this area so that dogs will have fewer distractions, won't be barking? Are we going to provide any measures to train dogs to not bark? Or are we going to allow dogs outside unsupervised? What is our policy around that? How can we mitigate that concern? Somebody says, I'm concerned with, it's already bad sight lines trying to pull out onto the main road from Depot. So how do we get that, how is this going to impact that? Now the proponents know that a site plan showing where the fences are, how far they're going to extend, what it's going to do to any sight lines for people pulling into or out of traffic. Now they know that they have to sort of be able to demonstrate what they're looking to do. So having the public feedback now is a benefit for the proponents, provided that the folks providing the public feedback can do it as constructively as possible.
And are comfortable with the fact they're not going to be able to
Yeah,
give any feedback when they have a more concrete plan in front.
yeah,
When
and
you have another meeting, we wouldn't all be able to come again and say anything.
Public feedback one time.
My
but
bedroom windows are 20
All right.
feet away.
All right. So with that, I agree that I think it would be best for us to probably open it to get the feedback and the understanding that just because of the volume of the number of people that we have here.
and then I would encourage comments to be presented to the chair. No crosstalk.
Right.
Keep it civil.
And try to keep the redundancy down.
Yeah.
Right. That I agree with everything so-and-so has said,
that-
and adding anything extra would be. So if you'd like to move to the side so that folks who
Well,
would,
So we are going to do it.
yeah,
now?
I think so, only because of the people that we have
Don't we
here.
have
We
to
want to
ask if
respect.
there's, don't you have to ask if there's
I would like,
proponents first?
I know, I would like to respect the time of of folks.
Yeah.
Couple minutes.
Unless you want to come back
Kind of
a month from
decide
now.
as a group, are we
I mean, that's
deciding
also
as a group
too. It could be.
To come back, we'll come back to the next one.
So in other words, the majority of the, or everybody here is okay with coming back
Okay.
at the next meeting once.
We would rather address
We have
it.
everything.
Yep.
Okay.
And
Great.
okay.
I make a motion, we table this to the next meeting.
Well, no, before we do that, I'm sorry. Before we do that, I want to just reiterate for the proponents' benefit.
Yeah.
A more complete site plan.
Mhm.
Make sure it includes details about landscaping, and that includes fencing, any natural plantings you're putting in. It should include parking, where people will be pulling into and out of.
Plus
whether you-
parking for employees.
Plus parking for employees, if you're going to have 2-3 cars there for staff. Anything you're going to do to make sure that, any disruption to the neighbors is minimized. And that may include, modifying your hours when it gets darker, in the late fall, early spring, whatever, so dogs aren't outside at night. My dog freaks out when it's dark at night. I don't know why, but anyway, so there's that. I would love to hear from the ACO to get their
Mhm.
feedback on what, how they view this proposal. I would also love to get a letter for the file from Sheena Strong, basically saying that you have permission to apply for the special permit in their behalf. Yeah, it's called the letter of agency, just to make sure that she's okay, because this is permanently giving a certain right to her as a property owner. It's not just, allowing your business, it's allowing this use on this site. So,
Right.
And then on top of that too, there will be we mentioned this at the last meeting, that you should be also asking for certain requests for waivers and related to this property, given our special permit application process, like because you're not doing anything extra to the building, that should be explicitly spelled out per our zoning bylaws. I think I need to refer you back to our zoning bylaws for the special permit application and what is fully requested from you, because I think, when we referred that to you at the last meeting and we got this application and now we're referring them back to you to follow the pieces of the special permit application process in our bylaws. That's kind of why we're saying some of these things are missing, because those are all parts of the process of what we were requesting here. And in some cases, you will be requesting for waivers for certain parts of it because you aren't adding on or whatever,
Not new
new construction, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it is not uncommon for people to come 2 or 3 times before they come with all the necessary information.
Yeah.
And most people don't necessarily know every bit of information they have to have without coming here first. So, I mean, don't feel like this is a wasted trip. And you guys shouldn't feel like this is a wasted trip. There's information that you're getting. You got a good explanation from the people in charge here. And so everybody now knows what's going on. The next meeting, we can have a lot more information. We can have a lot more specifics, and then everybody can have a better idea of what the do's and don'ts are.
Mhm.
But
And
don't get frustrated because it didn't happen tonight, because usually it doesn't happen tonight.
I would recommend you write down section 5.4.7. That is the criteria that we have to use to measure any special permit with site plan approval. We're going to be going through that, and we're going to be measuring your proposal against that.
Mhm.
Okay, so
I'm sorry, can you just go to section
5.4.7.
And it talks about like traffic, all the things, a
All the
lot
things
of
we've
the
been talking
things
about,
that
yeah.
that Doug has went over.
Yep, and we strongly encourage you to reach out to Bella anytime you need assistance, if you don't understand anything that's in there, or if you ask how it might be applicable, if you don't see how it would apply to your project, talk to her. That might be where you're requesting a waiver from that condition.
Right.
Which is fine, if it really doesn't apply, so.
And then the other, again, too, like I want, I appreciate the public interest in this and coming out. It's always
Yeah.
good to see people at these meetings.
Yep.
And also, I appreciate you working with us and trying to find the best solution for your time as well.
Usually there's no smiling faces at the other side of the room. Truly, I mean, just bottom line, oftentimes it's a 5 of us and him and we're looking at the wall.
We're looking at chairs, yeah.
We're looking at chairs and it's 7 minutes.
And before we close this out, I'd like to actually take a survey of everybody who's here. Don't say anything. Raise your hand if you live within, let's say, 100 feet of the property.
Most, yeah.
200 feet? Is that everybody else, 200 feet? Most. So you're all abutters.
Neighbors.
Neighbors,
Yeah.
abutters. Okay, great. Thank you.
The other thing is when we post, so generally we do not have a July meeting. However, we have to act within a certain number of days.
We need a July meeting.
For-
I think we need
Out
to.
of
We
July.
talked about this last month. We're gonna
Yep.
do it, John.
So
Yep.
I want to get that on the record now for the folks who are here so that we know what that day that is.
Would be
That's July 3rd.
I know, or July 2nd. Can we do the
Is it
week
July
after the
2nd?
July? Can we do July 9th?
Second Wednesday of the month. There's something going on for me.
You won't be here?
I don't have a problem with doing it on July 2nd if other folks can make it.
I'm good, period.
You're good?
I'm good, period.
I'm in the middle of moving that week, so
Uh-huh.
that'll be
Bummer.
really fun.
so funny, so fun.
Just pile another thing on. I can figure out July 2nd. John, will you
John?
be here?
Yeah.
It's a vacation.
You don't want to go to the Cape, really.
No, it's vacation week. That's why you generally don't have, that's generally why we don't have meeting in July, because it's usually week.
Okay,
Fourth.
if we can just really quickly check, can folks look at July 9 then?
Or even June 25th.
Yeah, do we need an early meeting?
Well, they might not be able to get their stuff together by June 25th.
That's
20 days.
3 weeks.
Uh,
Getting, okay.
June 25th,
Contractors love that when you call them and say, hurry that plan up. What do you do?
that's the Master Plan Implementation Committee meeting that night,
Oh, right.
What time is that at?
6.
So, thank you for pointing that out.
Can we do a Thursday, the 26th?
Oh, I'm sorry, Thursday the 26th. 6th.
of June.
I have no conflicts with that day.
Try to pull it off.
I have no conflicts, period.
Retired life.
Must be nice.
At June 26th works for the applicant. It's a Thursday.
Thursday.
It's June
Okay.
26th work for all of you guys.
Everybody.
The July
Check your
meeting in June.
calendars.
Christmas.
All
Check
right.
your Google
We're checking with them.
calendar.
We're going to check with you too. It's only
Yeah.
fair. It's only right.
In that case, if there's nothing else, I will be happy to make a motion that we continue this public hearing to June 26th, 6:05 PM.
I second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The hearing has been continued to Thursday, June 26th at 6:05.
Thank you so very much. We appreciate y'all being here, really do.
Thanks, thanks, Joe.
It's wonderful to see people show up.
I feel like you see us. You see us.
People only
Okay.
come to see us when
Yeah.
when there's something
When they're
from
mad.
Yeah.
I think room means you're doing good.
O'Neill. All right.
Just a really quick thought about the timeline. My understanding, and it's the way we've operated elsewhere, we do have to make a decision within a certain period of time.
I
But-
just didn't want to have to continue again
No,
if we
right.
need to.
But when the public hearing, while the public hearing is still open, that clock is paused.
Oh, okay.
So we have to open a public hearing within 63 days. We have to make a decision within a certain period of time after the public hearing is closed.
Oh.
So we could literally continue and then continue and then continue and then continue if we wanted to, and take a half a year.
Sure.
Oh,
You're not
would you,
saying-
I'm sorry, would you
I'm not
mind
saying we're going
continuing the
to.
conversation
Yeah.
outside, just for the camera's part? Sorry, we're not, thank you.
That's okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
You're
Thank you, we
welcome.
appreciate it.
We'll see you guys next month.
What's
Yep.
next?
We'll be here.
The end of the month, don't.
End of the
You're
month.
not saying, you're not saying we could meet after this more than 30 days after this meeting or 21 days after this meeting.
Yeah,
Are you? You
yeah,
are?
yeah.
Okay.
It's worth, consulting, but my understanding is that as long as the public hearing is open, the clock is told.
I don't want to get ourselves. in
I
that
don't want to
situation.
drag this on, but I'm just saying it's
Noted.
something we
We'll
don't have to
check.
worry too
Yeah.
much about.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi.
And I guess that's,
Needed anything else?
the only other thing that I'm thinking about is like, should we have caught this before? I mean, we kind of said it very
Oh, you.
clearly
I
at
thought
our
we
last
clearly
meeting.
We did.
This is what the plan that we
Yeah.
want to review. And then we
Yeah.
got a business.
Right.
This is what we got before, and I think we were under the impression there was another copy on
A
its way.
more-
There was more.
Yeah.
And it's clearly being worked on.
They
by
got a
an
photocopy as opposed to a picture that they printed, but yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
But yes, we could go through the checklist with them more thoroughly before they come again.
I mean, that's also not really our job. Also, like, we referred them to that.
Right,
There's
you
only
can-
so much.
You can only lead them so far to the water. They got to drink it themselves, especially with the cross the T's and dotting the I's. I mean, it's not our responsibility to make sure they do everything right. We can help them, but it's just not our responsibility.
Yeah, I just want to make that clear because again, I feel somewhat bad for the public, right? Like,
Yeah. Totally.
so.
well done, Madam Chair.
All
Well
right.
done. Good job.
And that will come up again later when we talk more about what's available on our website for people to look at for guidelines,
Great.
I think.
So the
Themes.
next item on the agenda is, unless we're good to move for that, yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Is board reorganization. We had an election. I was up for reelection with no opponents.
You got reelected.
So
Well
I
done.
got reelected. Generally, after every annual election, we do a board reorganization involving chair, alternate chair, and comprehensive plan committee representative and Pioneer Valley Planning Commission representative.
Oh, we have a rep to the PVPC? Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know what's been going on with that.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
We reorganize chair, alternate chair, CPC representative,
Mhm.
and Pioneer Valley Planning Commission representative. And then we also are not a part of this reorganization because we just happened, but we also have someone on the implementation committee of the master plan and comprehensive plan. So with that, I know I've said I've been trying like not to be chair the last few years. I
Look how well you didn't do that.
I know. Yeah, I feel like, yeah, wouldn't. I guess I've appreciated working with Bella. I feel like there's a little bit less of pressure just on me when there's a competent. Not that our previous planner was not competent, but like when there's planning
time,
support,
yeah.
there's a little more time, a little less of a time commitment. And the other thing was interested in, but also willing to, is the implementation committee, which Doug, you're a part of now. So if there's no other interest for chair, I am happy to stay chair if you would like me to.
I don't see anybody jumping up and down to take your
Good
job,
job,
if you want to know the truth.
I'm personally sick of you doing that job myself, so
So just sharing all the time.
sharing again.
Sharing
I
here.
mean, you do it so badly. You're so rude to people. and-
A lot of it is really just like letting the public know what's happening.
Yeah.
Our previous chair, like, he was great in a lot of ways, but didn't really like bring the public along in the process of like how things were. So that was kind of like what I wanted to bring to it. So,
And I think that we're serving our constituents as well as we possibly could with our attitude on this board. I mean, it's not restrictive. It's not consensual. We're not giving the farm away,
yeah.
and we're not letting nothing happen. So, I mean, I think we have a pretty good balance about how we approach projects that want to come into this town, especially this one. You know, this is the third time they have to come back, and they'll come back as many times as they have to till we're satisfied.
Mhm.
You know, and I think that's our pretty much position without being rude.
Well, as long as we base every decision on the rules that are set down in the
Absolutely,
bylaw, then we're
absolutely.
fine.
Right.
And I'm confident that we're doing that. So,
Right.
yeah.
Under your tutelage.
I would make a motion to nominate Stephanie as chair for the coming year.
I second that motion.
Any further discussion?
I move to close nominations for chair.
Do we have to,
It's you. That's all.
do we
It's
have to
you.
say all in favor or something?
Aye.
Lee Bell abstains.
Let's nominate him for alternate. Alternate chair. Like, Jimmy, you've been doing it for a while. I mean, I think you've
I
what?
don't care. I'm good with it. So, you know,
To nominate Jimmy Tarr as alternate chair.
Second.
in favor.
Aye.
All right, alt chair, done. CPC representative, who is that currently? Is that, it was Lee or is it Lee? Is
It
it
was me.
you? How
Yeah.
do you feel about that?
Is double
Eh.
master plan is.
Yeah, and master plan implementation. CPC rep, I mean, I could take it or leave it.
It's kind of like a lot of stuff happens in the winter, right?
It's basically January through April reviewing applications. I'm actually kind of frustrated with it because I felt as though some of what the committee broadly agreed to do, I thought was outside of the scope of the CPC. I didn't think the project necessarily were a good fit for Community Preservation Act, requirements. But that's what the committee voted for, and of course it got approved at town meeting.
Mhm.
So I'm just one voice, but there's that. So I'm happy to continue. If someone else wants to pick it up, that's fine too. Move to nominate Lee. No.
Give it back to Lee.
What do you get?
Oh, did he have it before?
Yes.
Oh, boy.
He was the one who passed it off to you.
Oh, geez.
Missed one meeting. Got a bunch of new badges on your chair.
11, they
New
meet.
hats, new badges.
They meet kind of once a month, basically.
It's just over the winter.
October, November, maybe through April or May.
Uh-huh.
You get your summers off, Jimmy.
I have my whole year off. What are you talking about?
There you go.
I'll do it.
Move to nominate Jimmy Tarr as representative.
For discussion,
CPC.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, Jimmy.
Okay.
Thanks.
And then
Jimmy.
the last is the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission rep. Prior to COVID, they had like meetings regularly. It was very in person, like guest speakery kind of things. Now I don't know what
Is this what part of the PVPC is that the rep to? It's the main.
the entity. I don't know. There would be like
PVPC.
annual meetings and things like that. But like I was on it during one of the COVID years, and I like reached out to them. I was like, I'm the rep, and like it was crickets. So I don't know if they like didn't do anything, or I didn't get put on their list, or I don't know if they do
It's a
anything.
great
So-
committee to be on.
I currently try to,
There we
yeah, I
go.
mean, it's a
Yeah,
good committee
yeah.
to say, it's pad the resume without having to do anything. There you go. I currently try to attend the TIP meetings for the PVPC, and there's a couple of quarterly meetings that I go to for the town of West Hampton. So if I add that here, I'm fine with that, I guess.
So you'll be like, town of West Hampton, town of Hatfield,
Yeah.
CPC.
Hang on a second. West Hampton, no, Hatfield, no. Oh yeah, here you go.
I'm at the wrong meeting.
Wrong meeting. So I'm happy to do that.
Unless all of a sudden it ends up being like 5 extra meetings you're supposed to get.
If it's 5 meetings a month, then I'll be coming back and asking you to be released.
Okay, fair. Nominate, so a motion to nominate Doug for PVPC representative.
I nominate Doug for PVPC representative.
I second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, woof,
Beautiful.
we got a slate.
God, we just get so much stuff done.
Good, moving on.
Big letters.
All right, Bella,
Okay.
I'm handing it off.
Okay, there's not really much going on in terms of updates for the PVPC goals for zoning diagnostic. It's just kind of on the agenda.
Can you let them know
Recurring.
that we're having a meeting June 26th
Yes, I
at
will.
6:05, and that is our meeting for them to come to?
Yeah.
If they need.
Won't be meeting again until
We're
August.
not
Yeah,
meeting in, yeah,
hopefully.
July, totally.
Knock wood.
Yeah.
They haven't responded to that email thread that we
Yep.
sent to
So
them
I would
yet,
not, can you
so-
nudge that and say should come, they shouldn't come at 6:05 because we're going to be in the middle of a hearing. I'd say like 6:45 to 7 o'clock-ish,
Yeah,
probably 7.
at least.
Let's say 7.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
I think there'll be some conversation,
Yeah, we had a lot of interested people who
right?
deservedly get the microphone.
Plan to be even
Absolutely.
more.
Okay, the update about 65, 65D and 67 Elm, which plays into the
And also
rezoning
12
industrial.
and 18
Yes.
Elm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There we have, yeah, exactly. This can just be basically the rezoning industrial parcels on Elm agenda item, sort of. But in more detail, we figured out it was as Doug suspected that 65 and 65D were originally one parcel. There was an A&R in 2014, and that's why the back part of the front parcel is industrial.
24.
Where are we talking?
Why would we do that?
Where
I
are
think
we
they
talking?
wanted
We're
an
talking
acre.
upper end of Elm, left-hand side?
Uh,
What's there?
Diamondback Properties owns it. It's
What's the
Pachorik's.
business?
Pachorik's place?
Correct.
I mean, there's a lot of businesses
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah,
Diamondback
Pachorik's
He
place.
rents
Properties.
them
is-
out and also
Oh,
he's an
that big
electrician.
building? Is that what we're
There's
talking?
the big building.
Yeah.
There's the house in a barn in front of
Yeah,
it.
yeah, where he's got all
And
his
then
stuff.
The
there's
garage.
and then there's like a garage parcel, a third parcel that's
all
back
right, way back there,
behind.
uh-huh.
Yes.
So that solves that.
And they're 3 separate parcels, 2 different zones. It's
Yeah, it's a whole
The
thing.
nightmare.
that we like accommodated something from a previous owner apparently in 2013, which
Yes.
again, why
Yeah,
would we do
exactly.
that?
So there was I don't want to get into too much detail for you again, but the gist of this is that it's very contentious because of there was a little Neponset lawsuit.
This was way
they
back in
used-
2013.
Or is this
Um,
recent?
Was
Or
that
is
in
this recent?
2014 that Little Neponset lawsuit? Okay.
What's
They
the
use
Neponset?
Little Neponset is the side road.
Yeah.
Is
little
it-
dirt road.
Is it a
The-
right of way? Is it a?
Right away.
They said as
It's
frontage.
an easement.
They used it as frontage.
Oh, wow.
Then they went into litigation.
Of course they did.
And then I don't want to, I'm not a lawyer. It seems pretty complicated. We have records in our file that suggest Little Neponset is maintained by the town, but then they put private way up on the sign. So that may have been like a settlement agreement to discourage trap. It's very dicey.
Was the town a
So-
party to that suit?
I think so. Well, I don't know what party means. Were they one of the
Were they
One of the
named?
litigants.
litigants? I don't think so. I think
Okay.
it was between the abutters who owned the parcel to the west of Little Neponset and Pachoric. Maybe over the public way thing.
Figure out if it was actually a road that was recognized by the state and maintained by the state.
Right.
And it is.
Or by the
The
town.
the town maintains it.
If you can find the, any case notes relative to that, I'd be interested in looking
They're
at
in the
in the thing.
office.
If you
Yeah,
scan it, email,
sure.
I'd just be interested in looking at that.
Totally.
That'd be great.
It is
Thanks.
interesting. So basically the traffic on Little Neponset bothers the abutters a lot, the traffic coming in and out of Patrick's parcels. And so
Is that from the notes from the litigation or current conversation? Because I just want to make sure that we're,
it's from the litigation.
Okay.
There was like a stop work. There was like when he wanted to
Cease and
change
desist.
the
Yeah.
uses, they wanted to do a cease and desist thing because they didn't want to increase traffic at all up and down Little Neponset. So the long and the short of it is he's going to go for variances. In the meantime, he wants to add the variance for the cigar building would just be, instead of adding an allowed detached single dwelling unit, he just wants to add an attached one.
He's going for a variance.
Going for a variance.
You can't get a variance for a use. It's not, it's that you just can't do it. It's not legal. You can get a variance for dimensional issues like setbacks or frontage or, access, but you can't get a variance. For
Change of
use.
use, yeah.
Yeah, they don't
If
exist.
it were attached instead of detached.
Doesn't
instead of
matter.
used.
You
Oh,
can't
so
get a
what you're
variance for
gonna
a
use it
use.
for, right? It's like residential
But you're
versus
allowed
business.
you're allowed one residential unit in industrial. So the only variance would be that he wants it to be attached instead of detached. Anyway.
yeah, in our table of use, it specifically says that if the one residence that's allowed has to be detached.
I think that's still a special permit. I would think it's still a special permit because I don't know, I'd have to look.
I know. So
The use is allowed, so it's not a
use
variance.
is allowed.
So he's looking for a special permit under, I'd have to look it up.
To
the
allow them
specific
to
section.
attach it.
The planning board may waive certain regulations, on non-conforming properties if the proposed change is not more non-conforming or not more detrimental than the existing use.
Existing
or-
So it
non-conforming.
wouldn't make sense to go to zoning board of appeals for to attach the dwelling in industrial rather
No,
than
he
have
would,
it be
he'd get
detached.
denied. He would get denied because you can't get a
Okay.
variance for use. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
But he could come to us and ask for that?
I think he could come to us and get a special.
okay.
Jeez, it's really complicated.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was under the
Yeah.
impression that that was like a good use for a variance, and Kyle and I went to the site and we talked to him about it. That was also his recommendation.
I would know,
I would
right?
also like to just know how many hours of your time has been put into this.
And this is
in the town's time. I'm just
Yeah.
naming it. Is
Right.
that like if you're making these site visits, we're
Right.
kind of,
Andrew went over there.
yeah, this sounds,
So
I just would like to
This
name
Petrarch's
that as,
property
yeah,
we're talking
yes,
about?
I would just
Uh-huh.
like to name it as
Right.
buyer beware, or I don't know. Like you got what you got, and yeah,
Use it the best you can.
right. I don't.
So in the
I
okay,
know it's our job to try to be friendly, try to work things out, make it work within our bylaws as well, what the applicant wants. But there's some things that that applicants just can't do sometimes. And at what point do we say,
Yeah.
this is enough of our time, hire an attorney and make your case? You know what I mean? I don't know. That's,
We shouldn't necessarily be fending for them.
No, and your job, building inspector's job, is not to help find a way to get them what they want.
mhm,
It's to bend and twist the law to make it work.
mhm.
Well, I'm not that familiar with variances, so I sort of,
Yeah.
if I believe that might be the path forward if Kyle thought it was. But regardless, I think what we told him at the time was it makes more sense to wait for any kind of attempt on a rezone or on any kind of planning board action until he has a solid plan about what he wants to do. He has sort of a loose timeline about when he wants to even do residential development. So it's my takeaway from this is that it's too complicated and contentious in the town to tackle at a special town meeting. It would be, he doesn't really-
Rezone it as a residence even?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, I'm not sure whether that would really count as increasing or decreasing the use. It's I just feel like it's dramatic.
To
kind of-
poke a little bit of a nest of that part,
Yes,
doing anything with that
exactly.
part.
I think if it was part of a regional, that's the wrong word, but sort of a broader area of rezone activity,
Yeah.
if we were looking at that whole section of Elm Street or that whole area and really looking at a lot of different aspects of zoning and making changes to a lot of different parcels, of which these were one or two of those,
Yeah.
that'd be fine.
Yeah.
Because then we could defend it as saying we're looking to make the zoning more conforming
For
to
special
the
town meeting.
long-term master plan of the town.
I think the thing is though, it's we're already kind of doing that in the medium term.
Right.
With a
right,
diagnostic,
Yeah.
it just is
Right,
not going to.
agreed.
And so I
agreed,
feel like my takeaway is to wrap this into that,
agreed.
do some kind of mixed use
Yep.
overlay or some such.
Yep.
Mm.
And yes. Okay, so for 12 to 18, Elm, which is the other part of the Elm Street rezone question. It's also, as we talked about last time, there's just a lot up in the air with the pair of parcels.
Parcel is this?
This is the
It's-
self-storage
Oh.
and Benson's,
Yep,
the
yep, yep,
house as
yep.
well.
Right.
Mhm.
And so, based on the fact we haven't received any further updates on the timeline of the construction, he hasn't responded to that.
Of the current special permit.
Right, exactly. He did file his parcel, his ANR with
That
the Registry of Deeds finally, but I just think it's the same as the Pechoric parcels. It just makes sense to not rush on, since in both cases,
And
there's
Remind me
a
again,
lot
what
of
is,
things that we don't know. Yeah.
what are they looking to do on that property?
12 and 18, they
Yeah.
want to codify the house that's currently there. But they're
That
only
giant
allowed one,
historical-
One
but
dwelling unit.
one dwelling unit on a residential, industrial zoned property.
Right.
Yeah,
I did see for some reason a U-Haul truck by the house a couple days ago.
Yep.
We're moving out.
Moving out.
Moving
That's
out.
why he's kind of was asking the question about codifying.
Mhm.
because
It's
the
it's
house-
open now. It's empty. It's
Yes.
first time for a while.
So, yeah,
wait, and it's zone industrial?
industrial.
Especially with all the stuff behind it
Mhm.
and around it.
Which is why like rezoning that area to
That's-
rural residential seems like it would make.
But
the
it
most
got
sense.
rezoned and he would use the rezoning to be able to
No,
build the
he-
storage units?
We did
No?
not, it was already zoned
was already zoned
industrial.
in-
We
for a
never
long
changed
time.
the
You
zone.
didn't have to.
So previously, there was some other use on that was
Yes.
industrial and it got
Yes.
classified as
Yes.
industrial.
Yeah, oh yeah.
When
Are
it should have been zoned rural residential and then having pre-existing
Okay,
non-conforming.
so if he
probably,
wants
as-
to codify, he can do, we can do one of the two things. We can change the regulations because in the industrial, I don't care if you're running condos if you want to, but I don't know anybody who would want to buy a condo in an industrial
So
zone.
the problem with,
If we rezone to rural residential, he has to understand that that makes all of his storage units non-conforming, right?
right.
Which
So-
means he can no longer expand them, he can no
Right.
longer
He's
change them.
got a whole
that's
permit
it.
to put in new.
Which he is open to doing that, but he wanted to know if how long he would have to finish the project with finishing the rest of the
Who are we
storage
talking
units.
about?
Storage units.
Who are we talking about? Not the storage unit. Who is it?
111 is the
Uh-huh.
owner of the property.
Wow, so an active special permit is still allowing the continued construction of storage units under the industrial type zoning.
Yep.
Suddenly the zoning gets changed. What does that do to the status of the special
Yes.
permit?
Yes.
Does the special permit expire at that point?
I thought we were
They don't
talking about
really
this. There's a clock
expire.
ticking on this.
They
There's
don't
not.
expire, I don't think. Not
He's got,
really.
like-
There's a building permit that expires, the special permit doesn't expire.
Your building
You have
permit.
to, in our bylaws, it says you have to finish
to
building
start.
it by a
Oh.
certain
And
time.
you can, well.
But
yeah.
it doesn't necessarily mean if the zoning changes.
It says you have to substantially complete it within a certain time, and you have to start within a certain time, of
So-
the issuance.
Yeah,
But
substantial
the building
completion.
permit is what expires, and if you don't
Okay.
act for like 180 days, you have to get another one.
No, and that's fine, yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, he said he was going to get his lawyer to send over like more of a timeline or something for construction, because I asked him like because there was a delay around the demolition of the barn. He has maybe good reason that he was delayed, but what's happening now? Is our question.
The question for me would be to town's attorney.
Mhm.
If that gets rezoned to rural residential, what does that do to the status of the special permit, if anything?
Yeah.
Does he get to continue to building out that now non-conforming use? Or does it get frozen at that point? And that would be
I
something
mean-
for a town's attorney to be.
Right. I
Yeah.
don't want to.
And that also would be a general question to ask in general if we were looking at potentially rezoning our maps in the near future
Yeah.
to get rid of these spot
Mhm.
zones and making them pre-existing non-conforming.
Storage units aren't exactly disruptive.
Yeah,
Agreed.
that's
few-
the thing. You could have a condo.
Yeah, it's
Industrial
a few,
storage.
it's a few extra car trips in during the day and all that, but you're not going to see 18-wheelers 30 times a day going in and
There
out.
could be much heavier industrial uses,
Right.
correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not, but that still makes this a good case study to look at, so. Yeah.
So, yeah. And the other thing you saying, just to close the loop on you mentioning, oh, what if we allowed for condos and industrial use? I would say, or push back on that only because then the idea of industrial zoned properties in general, not those particular ones that are in residential settings that should have probably not be zoned industrial to begin with. The idea of having industrial property is to concentrate industrial type growth. And if you add the opportunity for housing on them, then you lose the opportunity of that ever being
Right.
industrial really in the future.
Understood. And yeah,
So,
I agree with that.
I mean, argument to me, maybe more than one detached unit could be in an industrial zone, but
Yeah.
I think we need more thought put into something like that. But
Okay.
So does it make sense to folks that maybe we're not shooting for a special town meeting for these two?
I think we,
No.
I think I would say not necessarily for special town meeting, but if it comes up and we put it on a normal town meeting schedule,
For next year.
I would be
Yeah.
open
Yeah.
to that.
I think
Yeah.
by December, we should have solid answers as to what we want to do rezoning wise for that quadrant of town.
And if not, maybe more,
Yeah.
if based on the diagnostic review.
Yeah, I would love to see us take a look at the whole corridor, the West Street corridor, and figure out what needs to happen there, if
Right.
anything.
And then
if
also
anything.
probably having to be strategic on, is it one giant article? Is it two article? Like, right? Like where is going to be the rub for people on some of these things? What are going to be, because if you take one giant map update, or do you take it in chunks also is a question.
My chunk got done and your chunk didn't get done. Like I hear that in this town for sure.
That's true too. There's pros and cons to that.
We could talk about that.
Yep.
This
Further
is
conversation.
related, but I spoke with Andrew and Kyle about the planning board having a sign off on Permitize, which is the building permit platform that we use.
Yep.
We don't have one on there for some reason, and neither does Concom. So Kyle thought it was a good idea. We're going to
Can you explain what that is?
Yes, it's the permitting platform it's like an interdepartmental permitting platform. So it allows each department to double check the status of the permit and see if there are outstanding things from their board or commission or perspective or purview that need to be completed before the building permit should be issued. So in this case, for instance, because Alejandro received the special permit with a contingency that he file his A&R before he could begin work, since planning didn't have a sign off in the building permit platform, maybe that's how that fell through the cracks. So we will
Mhm.
now be on the building permit platform
Mhm.
where
That's a great
for-
idea.
At least for
Mhm.
things that have a building permit associated with them for
Yep.
ANRs. Or why am I saying ANR?
Anything.
Yes.
Any permit.
It can be anything,
special
anything
permit.
with a
Yeah.
special permit, yeah.
Then
It helps so much, just any kind of interdepartmental
Exactly.
permitting.
Yeah.
It just makes things so much better.
The review would be the responsibility of you as the
Right.
department
Or
assistant.
depending on what day, whatever.
But
Yeah.
it's include, you
We
hook
both
people
will
up
be
via
looking at it.
email and they'll ever become
Exactly.
Who would
signatories.
sign off on
You
that?
can look
Does
at
the-
like who was supposed to sign off. It just,
Yeah.
it saves so much time running around calling.
Exactly.
Were you the one who was supposed
Yeah.
to? Or is she the one who's
No.
supposed to? And, oh my God, I got to meet her tomorrow. You see
Vacation.
it all in one permit
Yeah.
view. You know, it just,
Well, you do it now for, in what way do you do it now?
Well, I help Kyle and I run
Yeah.
I go in there every day and I just see what permits have been applied for. And if there's stuff that needs to be uploaded in there, print stuff out. Usually, right now, the treasurer's the only one that has to sign off.
you do
So,
all building permits and permitized?
yeah, all
Even-
building, all electrical, plumbing,
Cool.
gas, sheet metal, everything, swimming pools, I mean, everything.
Yeah. And it helps. You don't need to know the emails of everybody. You just go right into the permit. You like tell this person they need to.
Yeah,
come
and,
with these
and
forms.
contractors are highly encouraged to set up an account in there for themselves. Then they can go in and apply for their own.
A lot of towns just
They're
say, you
required
got to
to.
do it. We don't
Yeah.
do paper anymore. Sorry.
Yeah.
Take that, go back home and type it into the.
Yeah.
So that everything's captured in one spot, yeah.
Yeah, it's so
Um,
much better.
One really quick question. Is it common practice that when a special permit is issued by this board, that the building inspector receives a copy of the decision document?
I don't remember if I gave him a copy of the special permit, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I still feel like there's pockets of areas where things get missed.
Mhm.
And so that's one of the things Bella and I have been trying to work really hard at is closing the circle.
Okay.
To make sure everything is where it's supposed to be.
Sure.
And then back to us.
If we forward like a digital copy of the special permit decision, once it's ready,
Mhm.
then that would probably come before the building permit application ever shows up or the business license application ever shows up or whatever. But at least the building inspector has it and he's made aware, okay,
That's
there's,
a great idea. If you issue a
there's,
special
you know,
permit for somebody to be doing something that,
right, then he, at least
Kyle
if
should
if
get
he
that.
sees the building permit come in and he goes, oh, wait, hold on.
Here's all the
Yeah.
stuff.
My other question is this then, does this pivot to this other stuff that you supplied us with?
It does, but I will,
So in a way, so like this is the city of Northampton, for example, when you apply for a special permit, you have to apply for it all online
right, like through a portal.
through a portal.
Good.
Is
It's
that
interesting because they're not using that for building permits yet. They're still on paper.
in
permits.
Northampton?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So it's like the inverse.
They're just, people permitize the cost, so you just kind of bite off what you can. And
Minutes.
it's going to cost the town to get us on it because they get you per module, they get you per group.
Okay, cost thing. Yeah, because that's something that I was like, oh, I don't know how permitize works, but it would be if there was some way you could tie someone's like special permit application to their then all the permits that they need to apply to build certain things on from it. I don't know how that works.
So those
Like what
things
it
can be-
is.
Those
Yeah.
things can be uploaded.
Yeah, gotcha.
So that's what happens, like people will send prints, like the pickleball court.
Yep.
Every time they have any kind of testing that gets done for anything or all that, usually I get a file and Kyle says, can you upload that to Permitize? And then when I upload it in there, it's a place where he can go and see.
Right, so then it would
You
make,
said-
You could upload the
Active
special
building
permit.
You attach it to their active building permit,
Yes.
right? Yeah, so
And by
We're
the
talking about a-
contractor creating their own account, they connect themselves to the permit, and then they can go in there and upload stuff themselves, or they can send notes, or they can print stuff out if they need to.
he's talking about decisions that we generate pre a building permit.
Yeah.
So you only have a doc with nowhere to go with it. You can't attach it to a record, which is a permit request.
Well,
They get a number and then there's just gonna be
that's
some
what I'm
dead
saying
letter
is
off.
If I know there's a special permit and they apply for,
Yeah.
this is where things
that's
can
the
be
two
more
things.
connected. If I know there's a special permit and they apply for a
That's
building
also-
permit,
Yeah.
I can upload the special permit into Permitize
that's
as
my,
a document.
that was my other question of like, and they're applying for this permit when they submit their application. Is there an opportunity for us to say that they can submit their special permit application?
Be a permitized.
I don't know,
I'm
maybe.
not sure.
Okay.
I want to really quickly before I think that's a good idea to move into these portions.
Yeah.
Sort of about like usability of our website, like helping people to understand what they need to do. But I wanted to say I got 20 to 23 hours a week. So
Approved at town meeting?
yeah, so I will be
Yay.
here
Good,
Fantastic.
awesome.
between 22 and 23 hours a week. Part of that is because Lori is going to be in the clerk's office one day a week.
Mm.
Awesome.
And so we're going to be working on like dividing tasks in such a way that everything is covered no matter which office we're
Right.
in. So that will have to do with writing planning decisions, things like this. Okay. So so I had Lori print out this. I tried to look at towns that are around the same size as us and don't have a way fancier website than we do and what they're doing. We are upgrading our website, but it's the same platform. We're just like upgrading to a
Womp
new
womp.
version. So this I think is from Montague. And these are just questions that we could put on our current platform very easily. We would have to have it vetted by the attorney. Of course, we don't want to be like giving advice without having that
Mhm.
read over. But I mean, these are examples of things that other website, like on the bottom of our planning board page, when you go, there's just a giant white space where like this could easily be slotted in.
Sure,
So
yeah.
we could come up with a list together. We could review what other towns do, like, things like that. And then also, I want to show you on the Montague. I sent you all a link.
It's funny you're saying Montague is a similar town, but they have like 2 or 3 people in their planning team, and
Yeah,
but
it's also their,
a little more bigger than
it's
us.
like 8,000 people.
Yeah.
The other thing, okay, so they use the same platform that we do though. And I just wanted to show you
This is
that
Civic Plus.
say what?
This is Civic Plus.
Probably they look the same.
Yeah.
Like one of the 3 like town style websites. So
Expandable questions.
they upload their decisions.
Yeah, I checked it out.
Upload all their decisions.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so they have a similar like set of like user-friendly things here. They have like planning board rules, regulations.
You
and
got all the bylaws
linked.
linked up.
And
It's
they
really
have
cool.
permit application instructions, and then they have special
All their
permit
site
site plan decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to Andrew about it, and he was like, "Well, we don't want this to be like too much of an administrative headache to be
Mhm.
always uploading, but we could do like just the ones from the past year or something."
I
if we
might
wanna
suggest, are you you're familiar with Google Drive?
Yeah.
Okay. I know.
We were Microsoft.
It's like, I'm a boomer. I have to ask it because a lot
never
of my
know.
peers are not. But anyway, I use that in
Yeah.
Edgartown,
Yeah.
and I put all the files, the project files. I organize them simply by meeting. So my June 3rd meeting had all the material that the planning board had to deal with then.
Yeah.
That includes every application, including all the support materials. Everything gets scanned. It all goes into that folder. June 3rd, there it is, including the final decision.
Mhm.
And then once that meeting is done, that folder goes into a permanent archive in another section of Google Drive, organized by map and lot.
Nice.
Ooh.
And we have records
Wow.
going back to the 1970s
Mhm.
in that Google Drive. So somebody can go back and really look at a comprehensive history
Yeah.
Oh my
of
goodness.
that property.
Nice.
But the advantage is once you set it up on a town computer, you have a local archive, and you just mirror that to Google Drive.
Sure.
You can put it into the website, into Civic Plus, and create the interface there.
Mhm.
And there's no uploading. There's no,
Right.
as long as you keep the archive organized, it's easy for anybody to browse through and look and find.
You
what
don't
they're
change
looking
the
for.
links or anything.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's
Maybe
dynamic.
You could come in and
I would love to.
do a tutorial.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk you through it.
Great.
Sure. Show you how to do
I
it.
also know we're
Yeah.
a Microsoft town,
Yeah.
so I don't know if there's a version of Microsoft that we
Yeah, there is. You can set it up with Microsoft OneDrive.
OneDrive.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Got you.
So-
Okay. That might be really
Yeah.
useful. I know it's like people want to see decisions and they call about it and they're interested.
Yeah, and even if you don't have the full project file,
Mhm.
it is still very easy to just put all your decisions in. Then all you have to do is name the file so it's clear and understandable.
Mhm.
You know, the date, the map and lot, the name, the address, whatever it is.
Mhm.
So that looking at the name of the file, it's like, okay, I know what that is.
And then
Love that.
and then you just refer people to the website and save yourself.
Yeah.
See, that's
exactly.
the point, right? That's like,
Exactly.
how much hours can you get off the phone on these kind of
Exactly.
questions?
Right.
Is this a
Exactly.
historic district? Am I on
Yeah.
a scenic highway? You can find this all yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, they talk about like maybe I'm interested in going solar and I want to know if I may install it. So like that's obviously like a sort of like very specific thing that maybe Montague is like trying to like, but they have ADU stuff in here and like
Mhm.
sort of things they're trying to push
Yeah.
education about. We could put on
Great.
the website. Okay.
I
No, that's
support
fantastic.
those.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
We
great.
love it.
Come, yeah, I don't know. It was the next step. Would you like come back with what you would like to put on there? Or I also totally would have feel like just go for it.
Go for it.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
I'm gonna obviously,
Yeah.
I'm gonna run it by the attorney and do all that. So.
Right. That would be the only thing I would be
Yeah.
concerned about.
And then this was a dialogue between the three of us, sort of about
The three of us being Lori.
sorry,
Bella
I'm
and me.
gesturing widely. Yeah, Lori, me, and Stephanie about how we should sort of template or frame our some of our decisions going forward. Do we need to kind of upgrade our decision template? Are we strategically vague in a way that we feel good about, or do we want it to be
No.
more?
Actually,
this?
if a decision is too vague, or if it simply parrots what's in the bylaw in terms of the
Yeah,
criteria,
That's the point.
you know, if the criteria says you must be, must be in conformity to and provide harmony to the neighborhood, and if that's all you put there and you don't provide evidence to support it, it could be overturned on appeal.
Mhm.
A judge will say, no, you didn't do your work, go back and try again.
Yeah.
So I definitely would support giving us clear criteria
Mhm.
to know what rules we're using to measure an application, but then we have to supply our rationale, and that has to be recorded
Totally.
in the minutes as well as in the decision.
Mhm.
And it makes it so much easier when we're having to go back through files and figure out why things were decided. And I mean,
Yep.
even on this Pechoric parcel situation, it was very helpful to have thorough documentation.
Yep.
of
But it would
why.
also be helpful if it was just on one
Yes.
document,
Instead of
the
rooting
legal
through.
document, as
Mhm.
opposed to like going through minutes and searching through.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And this also relates, and this is also a thing that I brought up in the same email conversation about, this is using the city of Northampton's template, but part of their application process is online and you upload each question you upload, and they ask the questions like, how do you make, is this a detrimental, or, they ask, it's not listed on here, unfortunately, but they ask like all the pieces that are required. Like we would have caught this former applicant that came in here today.
Mhm.
We would have caught them when they submitted, because it would have said,
You can't
explain
skip
how
sections.
this,
Right.
you can't skip sections, right? Explain how this is the traffic study.
Mhm.
Do this. It like would have prevented them from even submitting an application
Mhm.
because they would,
Had known they had a lot more information to get.
right,
Right.
which they should be getting anyway by referring
Right,
to our
of
bylaws.
course, of course.
But it's just that's why I was wondering if like at the least there could be a checklist that we could create that goes along with the bylaws so that people know that there are these like,
Well, the
I don't know.
checklist is like because it's like you said, you can't make people, whatever. If the checklist is in the bylaw, we could put it on the website in that same place where other towns tend to have it. But I think the beauty of the portal,
or the checklist
And
just
the-
being for
yeah,
us.
The checklist is on the website. It's called the zoning bylaw.
that's what I'm saying.
I know.
It would be mirroring
I
the zoning
know.
bylaw
Who
to
doesn't
put it.
enjoy good
Well, and that's why
salary?
I pointed out that
Yeah.
specific section for the applicants
know.
tonight.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to go and look at
Right.
before
There's
I
no
look at
Cliff
their
Notes to that.
application.
So the portal thing, the point of the portal is that you can't move on to the next step until you've completed the field
Mhm.
on that page. So I might ask if with this website upgrade, portals are very basic technology too. It doesn't have to be fancy. There might be
A Google form for that matter.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
something like this that it's like you can't move forward until you've answered the questions.
Mhm.
Can't skip.
I will say that's how permanized works. Anywhere there's a red asterisk.
It's a required
You
question.
can't
Can't
ignore
move
it.
past
So that's what I mean is
Yeah.
like, the list of permits that maybe I don't know how it works. Again, they're drop down. I'm applying for a building permit or I'm applying for
Mhm.
a swimming pool.
Oh, yeah. that'd be
You
easy
it would
to
drop
do.
down, you'd say special permit, and then you'd build out the steps in there and
Mhm.
wondering if they could do it in permitize.
I don't know. I think it's just
See,
building
Would you want it
steps,
separate?
but something like that.
Or would you want it separate?
The
Right.
technique in me is saying, okay, we set up a Google form that brings the data into a sheet. You can then use the sheet to populate a document,
Yeah.
and that gives us the template for the decision later on.
Mhm.
Yep.
You know,
That
it's
can easily be emerged from.
yes, exactly. So it would take time to work on it, but the amount of time you would save from then on in would be
Yeah.
tremendous. So
I
Yeah.
wonder if I can't do
And
that,
the application as
maybe.
it is now does reference the sections they
yeah.
need to look at.
Right.
Applying for this section.
Fair.
Applying for this section.
Exactly.
So your hours are increasing as of July 1st?
Yes.
Okay.
But right now you're only in a couple of hours.
Yeah. What is
during
your
the week.
current?
13 still.
Yeah, but during the week,
Darn
like 10 to 2,
conservation.
2 or 3 days a
hour
week.
in off. Technically, I'm just here 12 to 2 because that's when I'm always here no matter what. If that makes sense.
Okay. Is that Monday through Friday?
Yeah, Tuesday, Thursday.
Tuesday and Thursday.
Yeah.
So for people that want to drop in
Right.
and get
Okay.
face
Those are my
time.
open office hours, but it's 13
Okay.
hours total between Tuesday and Thursday.
Okay.
But now will be 20 to 23.
Yeah, and it'll be Monday, Tuesday, Thursday.
Great.
Yes. Very excited.
Let's touch base, but we can do it after
Yeah,
the meeting's
that
over,
sounds
so
good.
I don't want to keep other people. Okay.
Yeah, and I have the brain to work on some of the if there's ways to build the permit application piece, I would be interested in that. in
Yeah.
that too.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Great.
I have some ideas.
Well,
We'll talk.
permitize is tricky. There's, you're trying to do a building permit, it says click here to upload your whatever, workers' comp. Click here to upload specific information. You can fool it and put in a blank doc. It makes you put in a doc. It's a
Mm.
computer. It doesn't read it and say, oh, this is an actual workers' compensation certificate.
Ah.
You
matter.
just put in a blank doc.
Your employer does.
But then
yeah.
then the building
Kidding.
department calls you and says, hey, we understand you put in a nothing here, but
Right.
it's just a matter of you got to tick a box to get further on.
Well, I'm saying,
There's
do they have
still, like,
open-ended questions? That's more where
Yeah,
I think
there's tons of
I feel like
So
Yeah, I
That's
could bring
more
it
of
up
our-
and show you, like, there's huge forms, like what you fill out for a building permit, it's a 4-page state form. And they just it's just a questionnaire with check
Mhm.
boxes and data fields, and there's huge places to type in a whole essay if you want to.
which is where I think we would want that potentially, right?
adding the planning board sign-offs on the building permits are going to be key for larger developments. in our design guidelines, I believe there's something which basically says any large structures you have to have the facade kind of broken up to give it the sense of, to some extent, it can't just be a monolithic structure. If somebody, uploads a plan to the building permit side of it and their elevations show a monolithic structure, and if it's substantially different from what the planning board saw and approved, then that'll be on the planning assistant or whomever is looking at it to go, no, these don't
Doesn't
match.
Right.
This is not what they approved. This is significantly different. This isn't just an extra window here or there. This is significantly different. At that point, the building inspector can say, no, stop.
Right.
You can either go back to the plan you had before, or you can return to the planning board for a modification.
Right.
And that's the value of it.
Totally.
It means that what we look at,
I
what
think
we
that's really-
approve, especially if the
Mhm.
appearance is critical to our approval,
Mhm.
then we get the opportunity to see that through.
Closing the loop, like
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
saying, which
Closing
I
the loop.
appreciate that.
Totally.
Yeah.
This also has me thinking about something else, if I may.
Go for it.
So next steps on this though is that we'll work together on
Yes.
Yeah,
something. Yeah.
I have some ideas for that might
Great.
solidify
Great.
things. So good.
This has me thinking about what we just passed at town meeting, which
Mhm.
passed with flying colors.
Unbelievable.
That's what happens when it's the last article of a very long warrant.
They got anything done
I know,
on
right?
issue 36 or whatever.
Around the ADU update, bylaw update, it references design guidelines to an extent in a historic district. Can we have a conversation or figure out a next step on what that means? Because we said that we're going to make them in conjunction with the historic district.
Really good point.
Just want to make sure we remember that.
Yes. Good point. Okay.
That's you got 23 hours now.
ASAP. I
Let's
know.
go.
How does the historic, is there like a committee that oversees historic stuff?
There's a historic commission.
So
Commission?
it's just
Are the-
rule our current guidelines by them and
I think it's looking at our current
I don't think we have to bend
design
it too much.
guidelines, but we don't have, so the design guidelines are mostly for commercial. They are for commercial. It would be
Yeah,
maybe another section that might be for ADUs and just getting a few bullet points
and
by
it's
them.
specifically ADUs within certain parts
Historic
of town.
zones
Mhm.
that they like have. And it's, we can even draft most of the language and be able to just run it by them. It's going to be a few bullet points, right? Like it
Yeah.
has to match the character of the neighborhood,
Right, that's where we can get a little more specific, yeah.
being more
yeah.
specific about that.
Yeah.
Because that's what it currently states is it has. Does it currently say it has to match the character of the neighborhood?
should.
Thought that got struck.
Should.
I think we
Hmm.
should also run through what counts as like too constrictive or too structionary in terms of like, it's not a word, but making things more expensive to achieve. Like, what is the line that we can draw between, it doesn't have to look like a Victorian mansion.
No
but-
slate roof,
right,
like
yeah.
No, right, but that is also where if you've got a truly historic home as prominent and center on a lot, you don't want to put an ADU, even if it's nicely built, in front of it.
No, I think we
you know,
did.
for
We did
example.
keep that as
I
saying
think,
it has to be
yeah, it has
subservient.
subservient to the
from
principal dwelling on the
principal
lot.
dwelling, Yeah. But-
Until they actually formally establish a historic district, which I don't think they've done,
We do have historic districts, but they have no teeth.
they have no teeth. Then I don't know it's going to be guidelines.
Yes, right, exactly.
That's all it's going to be.
So I'm just putting that on the radar of moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
with-
Yeah.
I don't think there's a rush because I think we should just wait until, because it's not going to be officially approved by the Attorney General by till the end of the year anyway. But if we can get them lined up, and it's something we don't need to bring to town meeting, but if we could do it
Yeah.
between now and the end of the year, that would be great.
I look at that as being like the trailer hitch on the back of the new car you just bought. Even if you don't own a trailer, well, I got it. I've got it as an option. We have the ability
Exactly.
to
Right.
really take that into consideration and roll that right in. But
And I want us to do it instead of being caught, when something comes up and people are like, what the heck? And then we didn't have the guidelines and then we're like a year behind or something.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Really good point.
Okay, sounds great.
Thank you.
Okay. Andrew wants me to ask you, and so the bylaw committee wants to know if the planning board has any input on the general bylaws, not zoning.
So
They
for
want me-
background,
Yeah.
explain what the bylaw committee is.
So there's a committee that meets maybe, is it every week? At least monthly. They're going through the entire set of general bylaws I don't know everyone that's on the general bylaw committee, but they're revising and updating the bylaws. There's like representatives from
There's some pretty
different
funny,
departments.
funky
There's
town
some
bylaws.
funny
let me tell you.
bylaws.
Mhm.
Can't scare a horse in public.
There's something about
That's
condoms
important.
also.
That is important.
No distribution
There's
of
a whole
condoms.
section about that.
Mhm. A whole
Big
section.
Chicken manure section.
You know that
which
causes
is pretty cool.
promiscuousness.
Yeah.
when you pass
Yeah.
those.
So
That's
there's
the
a
result
bylaw
of the
committee.
condom in
They're
school
working
thing.
through the bylaws and revising them with input from different boards and
And
departments.
stakeholders, yes.
Yes.
There's a few references to the
Scaring
planning
a
board
horse
in our
public.
bylaws. Most of it is like in consultation with wetland stuff and conservation commission. But
Laws.
yeah, if everyone could we can follow up, but like take a look at the bylaws and see if there's anything there. I appreciate you asking that though, because I did take a look at them and nothing really jumps out to me.
I know. The point is, I'm supposed to weigh in if we have anything to weigh in on. I'm supposed to go to one of these meetings and relay some of our thoughts to them and then
Excuse me.
relay the thoughts back to you. I was trying to sort of look through at least the table of contents of the bylaws and figure out what we might even have thoughts on. Right to farm came to mind. If there's
Oh yeah, there's some
anything that
agricultural
comes
commission
up
stuff
with
that's
us,
related to the planning
right to
board.
farm, and then historical preservation. I wasn't sure if there's stuff that maybe but I wasn't quite sure.
There's stuff that like, oh, that's a bylaw. I didn't realize that. How does that work with our zoning bylaws, or could it work with our zoning bylaws? Did bring some questions to mind.
If
But
there conflicts between general
well,
bylaws
are
and
there? I
zoning.
don't know. And also like, oh, this is probably something we should be thinking about, these other bylaws, because we're just so focused on our zoning bylaws,
Right.
and we don't even. That was the first time, honestly, I read through our towns
I felt, yeah.
towns bylaws,
General bylaws.
general bylaws. Yeah.
So maybe that is it. Maybe if there's anything that conflicts between the general bylaws and the zoning bylaw, or if there's mention of planning that we feel is
Any general bylaw that talks about land use, I
Mhm.
would look at
Yeah.
with great circumspection,
okay.
because it's not the role of the executive
Right. Sure.
to determine land use.
And there's also there's a whole section like cars and cars on lots, and like it's very odd to me how that happened and came to
Sure.
be. But
Cars on lots.
Well, in
Well,
this
and, like,
town, a long
police
time,
or
long time
Board of
ago,
Health or whatever other.
people didn't get rid of their cars. They just put them in the back of their property. So this town is filled with properties that have cars stuck on the back of them, and a lot of places they're out of sight.
Or sinking into the ground.
Might fall
right.
on, because I'm supposed to ask the same question of Concom, and that might fall on Concom, like something like that, where it's like, well, that's a contamination issue.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But it's also maybe something that the police deal with or some other department
Problem is,
deals
no
with
one deals with it.
typically.
No one deals with it.
who's Who's
But it's
rules?
under some, these
Well, I
things
think
are
that's a
organized by-
fair comment in general about
Yeah.
enforcement of all bylaws in this town.
Who's enforcing?
That's going to
Cars.
be, yeah, that's going to be something that you should raise.
Enforcement.
I'm speaking, we're currently
Yeah.
struggling with this in West Hampton.
Mm.
You can put any bylaw in place, any zoning bylaw in place, and if you're not willing to enforce it consistently and firmly, then the bylaw isn't worth the paper it's written on.
Right.
It is not worth having if all it is a statement of principles that nobody really does anything about.
True.
Words don't scare people.
So true.
No.
Not that you want to scare people,
Did
but
you
you know what I
know
mean.
that until about 2000, I think it was 2008, 2010, it was illegal to be Native American in the city of Boston after dark.
Oh.
Downtown for,
Yikes.
Law only got
Oh.
struck around 2010.
I kept reading over it and being like,
I'm just
yeah.
ignoring it. I'm not saying it was ever enforced, but the fact that it
Right.
was,
insane.
From that Tea Party incident they had.
that could have been, yeah.
So, okay, I will look for any instances of land use in the bylaws. Otherwise, is there anything, I don't know, I wasn't sure if I was supposed to get stuff from you right now to take to them, or if this is something we can keep discussing, because it's kind of a big,
Yeah, I want
it's
some
like,
time to look
well,
at the
who
general
read the
bylaws.
bylaws recently,
Yeah, I'd have to look at them.
And I think Doug's comment on enforcement is just something like I'm hoping that they're aware of, but also just bringing that up
Exactly. Just from a general point of view.
as someone who has their own bylaws to deal with.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Okay, we're going to have the first action committee meeting. It's the implementation we keep changing the
Yep.
sound of the name anyway.
24th,
Yes, on the 25th.
25th.
I wanted to just like run the framework for what we're going to be doing by you, just
Because we're the ones, what is our role? Our role is to like, a lot of the implementation is going to fall to us, but
right.
this committee is,
It's made up of
because we're the body that's going to have to like implement a lot of
Right.
these things.
so while it's like we have one rep on the board, but I just feel like you all should be aware of kind of like what the
Okay.
plan is. 'Cause it's like we're the ones that have been dealing with.
So we're not like
PVPC the most.
surprised
Right.
that when you, yeah.
Yeah. So we're supposed to report to PVPC after this first meeting with kind of what happened, and then they're supposed to come to a meeting as soon as possible after that to kind of guide us and help us have a productive time. But I thought for the first one, before the meeting, Andrew and I are going to come up with a list of materials to send out to the committee members, and then physical materials and agenda items for the meeting. At the first meeting, I think we should, again, clarify the committee's charge, revisit why the committee was created in the first place, review broad themes of the comprehensive plan and the action grid, and then continually be sure that we're sticking to the mission of strategizing implementation rather than rehashing the plan and falling into
Mhm.
that trap.
Mm-hmm.
Looking for cross-committee collaboration opportunities, identifying early focus areas, things that we can do immediately or that are kind of ready to be done quickly. And then the goal is to end with some deliverables for the next meeting and to try to frame what the next meeting will be about.
That sounds like a busy first meeting. How many hours is that going to be?
All of them.
20 minutes. Yeah.
20 minutes.
And then I want to create some kind of progress tracker thing. I want to figure out what's most accessible for people.
You
to
should take the
use.
poster and check them off as they go.
That will be the progress
Got
tracker.
plexiglass in front of it. You can use one of those markers
Mhm.
on it. Just
Supposed to
cross
go
it out.
here.
Yeah.
And then we'll tell PVPC what happened. Jerry from the Council on Aging already approached me about collaborating on grants for things like safer streets. I know that
Mhm.
like complete streets is like
That's
one
the
of the most
low.
obvious things that we need to start with. So that's just like such a perfect example of like cross.
Has this town done anything with complete streets
No, we
yet?
have
No.
not.
No kidding.
Isn't that
Yes,
funny?
that's
We've
so
done
sad.
other weird little streets programs that have very similar names but are not complete streets, like safe streets and
Complete
lots of
streets opens up a lot of avenues for
Yes.
funding,
Yep.
yeah.
and yeah,
Yes. And so it sounds like Council on Aging is interested in collaborating on that, which is great.
We would, I
Um,
think, open space and recreation would, because
Exactly.
a lot of their plan talked about adding sidewalks and a
Exactly.
sidewalk network. So I think there's an opportunity.
Yeah.
That'll be a good conversation at that
Mhm.
meeting.
yeah.
Exactly.
That's
We don't have, unfortunately, an open space rec. I've been trying to get a hold of one. I'm sorry. We have John Pease representing ag, but we want to work a lot. He's too busy. But I am going to keep asking people from open
And
space.
also,
because
like, even if you let them know, hey, we're going to be talking about
just to come
open
in.
streets,
Mhm.
then that might get them to go. Maybe they would go for their particular thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's something I would be interested in attending that
Mhm.
particular meeting too, only
That's
from
another
like,
thing about like meeting structure. Like I was thinking of just like Jerry from Council on Aging is not
on
on
the
the committee, but
Mm.
like she can come to the meeting to talk about complete streets or be a part of it. I was thinking maybe the different meetings, like a different sort of group could be assigned like more of a leadership role going across like different meetings if they want to kind of
Mhm.
talk about what is on their plate or what they're excited about or what they need help with, things
Mhm.
like that, just to keep people engaged because it's like it's another committee, you know. And then is that it? I'm going to start working on the housing production plan. I'm going to just dig into other towns' housing production plans, rereading our housing chapter, making an outline, and then I think it should be responsive to the OSRP and ag chapter. So just sort of
kind of like
bringing all those
repackaging
things
a lot
in.
of the stuff
Yeah,
was already there, plus a little extra.
exactly.
it's a lot.
I imagine these updates are going to get longer with the more hours you have.
Are you excited?
Woohoo! Thank you.
I'm very, very happy to have more time.
Any other comments from anyone on the board?
I can't think of anything.
Otherwise, our next scheduled meeting, as determined earlier at this meeting, is Thursday, June 26th at 6:05, and then not another meeting until August 6th.
Cool.
26, you said.
Yep, Thursday, 6/26.
June 26th, which will count as a July.
meeting.
That is our
Right.
July meeting.
Yeah.
So we're canceling.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second that motion.
All
Any-
those in favor?
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned at 7:36.
Thank you and good night all.
Okay.
Oh, God.